All right, guys, welcome to the next episode of KapVista Klips. Here with us, we have Ian Park from FinPay and Julia, our US correspondent. How are you guys?
Thank you.
Yeah, really well,
fantastic.
Thanks, Sam.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today we're just going to ask Ian a few questions and go through, the FinPay story and get an understanding of what the company is, who the team are, and what the plans for the future are. So let's get started. So, Ian, how does FinPay actually work? Can you help me understand the solution and tell me, a bit about what it is?
Yeah, of course. And look, I think that's a perfect segue, right? Fintechs often try to bamboozle people with, terminology and abbreviations. And I'll say it quite simply: we're a global payment app. Now, to dig a little bit further deeper into that, we're a transactional solution that merchants can download onto an existing mobile phone. So whether it's Android or iOS, and we kind of harness not only the card schemes, so Visa and MasterCard, and allow people to tap their card onto a phone. So very similar to, your traditional kind of archaic terminal. But then we also kind of go and aggregate all the QR wallets in the world. So, your WeChat Pay, your Alipay, Chrome Pay, Gcash, PayMaya. So we've got about 40 of those integrated fully into the solution. And then obviously the buy now, pay later space as a kind of global phenomena is really starting to kick off. So we went and aggregated a lot of those. So we work closely with Zip, another kind of media darling here in Australia. And then obviously the digital asset space, which is, heating up more and more the world over. So we work with Binance to provide crypto to crypto based payments, but also settling in fiat in real time to merchants. All in a neat little app you download from your app store.
Perfect. That's awesome. So what's the story behind FinPay? Why did you start it? When did you start it? Who's the team behind it?
Yeah, good, great question. We started our company in 2019, and we started as an API payment gateway, like lots of others do. Effectively handling card not present processing for a variety of kind of businesses. But in my past life, I was an investment broker and dealt in risk and management platforms for ASX listed companies. And something that really stuck out to me in that whole experience was transactional banking for technology companies. But I exited that company and then, started kind of dealing with cross-border transactions at kind of SaaS-based level. And that was pre-pandemic. So that was January 2019. And then moving forward into January 2020, when we started to put product into market, I traveled to the US and no doubt it was a really interesting trip. Hallelujah. I love the States, by the way, Julia. Such a great part of the world.
Whenever you want. You always have a friend over here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But we kind of amassed about 80 customers. We were pegged to do about $1 billion in transactions in our first quarter. Like we were pumped. And we came back to Australia, and then COVID reared its kind of ugly head, right? Put the world into a bit of a tailspin. Right. A lot of companies didn't know what they were going to do and how they were going to work themselves out of it. A lot of acquirers and infrastructure providers that we worked with, they were really assessing the risk in the market. And effectively, to be honest, the ground kind of fell away from underneath us. And working with investors and having tech that wasn't really scalable at that time was quite concerning from a founder's perspective.
Sure.
And I was standing in a coffee shop in Brisbane, and this is how the whole FinPay solution, as you see it today, really came about. And I was standing in a coffee shop in Brisbane, and I watched a young lady try and pay for her coffee, and the connectivity between her Apple Pay and the terminal wasn't happening, right? And she was getting increasingly frustrated. And we've all been there, uncaffeinated at 7:30 in the morning. Yeah. It's not the best place to be, right?
Yeah.
And
don't talk to me unless I have my coffee.
Yeah, exactly right. Don't interact with me until I'm, got a double shot latte in my hand. Otherwise, you're going to get a very blunt Ian Park, right? But further to that, she basically looked at the barista and said, "You know what? Don't worry about it," and stormed out of the store. And I was like, okay, so she hasn't got her good or her service. The coffee shop has missed out on their revenue, and that's a bad use case. She's never going to come back because she's had a bad experience. And I asked the guy behind the counter, and I was just like, look, how often does this happen? And he goes, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe 7 times a day. And I was like, how many days? And he said, look, every day. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, and a coffee's $5. That's a decent multiple on your revenue every week from a little small business to be missing out on. And I went, so the problem's not the Apple Pay, it's really the connectivity to the terminal. That's a very archaic piece of infrastructure. So we got to work. So we chatted to our good friends at Visa and MasterCard about, what we call SPOC and CPOC, which is tap on phone and pin on glass. So they're the kind of solution architectures that we work with globally. And it was a very emerging space. So we kind of thought, okay, well, emerging's great. Let's jump on it. Let's see what we can do with it. So we worked closely with PCI DSS and the regulators around how we put this product in market and started to really see some growth around mobile payments as a vertical. And then we, as we all do, we started to see some movers and some shakers around the consumer side. So consumers now have more ways to pay than ever. They've got crypto, they've got BNPL, they've got their QR wallets, they've got loyalty rewards, they've got, points linked to this and points linked to that and everything like that. But a merchant, their acceptance is so limited that they're often leaving money on the table from a revenue perspective because they can't accept those payments. So we level the playing field, and that's kind of how we came about. And from a vertical space that we play in for merchants that we work with, hospitality, retail, but then the big one is professional services or the gig economy. As millennials now more than ever have a side hustle, enabling them to take payments in a digital world is where it's really at. And traditionally, they're not going to go to their financial institution to get that service because we're millennials and we don't like our banks at the best of times. But that's where we see ourselves sitting, right? We enable the smaller guys in the market to really gain access to the global economy as a whole.
Yeah, that's awesome. It certainly it's certainly an interesting space, and I noticed this last weekend. Being in lockdown at the moment, there's very few places you can go, but farmers markets are still open. So I went to the local farmers market, and there is a lot of younger people tapping into that space. A Saturday morning, stall, they can sell, homemade bread and fresh fruit and flowers and things like that. And they're all looking for a solution because young people have the stalls, young people are looking to shop, and the use of cash is becoming, quite scaled back very fast. So you see people try and pull their phone out. Also, how do we pay? And there's a missing link. Some people have a Square terminal, and others have the big bulky merchant terminal, and then others just don't have it. And you're like, oh, okay, well, so there is a space for this. For if you look at very small examples, there's a space for it. So globally, that's a massive market.
And look, like I bought a new couch probably 2 months ago, right? And again, you start to see validation for it beyond your traditional kind of store, kind of environment. And the removalist guy, lovely guy, helped me, after multiple requests to move it around the house and try and figure out where it was going to sit. But he goes, oh, it's $100 delivery fee. And I was like, okay, no worries. And I kind of went, how am I going to pay you? Like, I didn't have any cash. And he said, oh, I'll just take your credit card number. And I was like, ooh, that kind of just stuck with me a little bit because you can't, and I'm sure they wouldn't do anything, right? Like, good guys, reputable, but you kind of just like, there are unscrupulous people out there. So if he just looked at his phone and said, tap your card, done, there you go. Thanks very much for coming. Have a great day. Perfect. He gets paid. I'm happy. I've got my delivery, and it's all done within a secure environment.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
For sure. I rarely ever give out my actual number. I can't remember the last time I had to do that, but I just always get the heebie-jeebies with that. I just, it could be the most trustworthy person, but you never know who's listening either. Wearing exactly AirPods all the time. We're like a noise cancellation. Joe Schmo is just writing down your numbers on the side. No, thank you. So yeah, definitely a need for that for sure.
So what are the milestones you've achieved?
Yeah, look, good question. I guess we are in a stage of hyper growth. We're currently operational and working commercially across 9 different countries. From predominantly APAC, being in our own backyard, Middle East, Africa, and now further into the EU. Working with the likes of Visa and MasterCard. Working with some of the largest QR wallets around simplification of acceptance for merchants, and then really pioneering, I guess, some really exciting stuff in the space. As I said, as cash becomes limited globally, and thanks COVID for that. But I think cash will always have its place in the world. But you're starting to see enablement at scale for not only consumers and merchants, and trying to bring that on board is certainly interesting. But yeah, from a milestone perspective, where we've just closing up a couple of rounds of money, which is great, which adds to the scale. Opening our European office, which is, as I said to you, Dan, it's super interesting because trying to settle that stuff up remotely from little old Brisbane is challenging, but certainly interesting. And I think it's the new norm, right? Until we can get this stuff all sorted. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are as a milestone company and what we're doing. The team is ever evolving and ever growing, starting from a team of 2 to 31 to now 57. We'll probably hit close to 200 staff by the end of the year. Well on our way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of brings me to say, obviously the fintech industry is very competitive. So I was kind of wanting to hear a little bit more about, your point of difference and how you are different from your competitors, and, how will you grow essentially?
Yeah, and look, that's a really good question, right? We get asked that all the time. What's your competitor analysis? Where do you sit?
Right.
And believe it or not, and I know this sounds incredibly contradictory, and I'm not going to be that guy, but we don't really aim to compete with anyone. We aim to connect and extend them, right? If you're a payment solution provider or you've got a digital wallet, what's your rollout model? How are you going to get that in front of merchants to get consumers to start paying? And 9 times out of 10, it's a significant chunk of their budget. So we can kind of turn around and say, well, we sit on the merchant side. We own that relationship. You've got the consumer side covered. Why don't we just meet in the middle? We'll integrate you into our solution. We'll put you out across our network. And then you're tapped into, 2 million merchants globally. So that's really our role. We connect and extend. We don't compete. And I think there's enough fat through transactional product and banking to really kind of for everyone to do quite well. And again, it's enablement at scale for them, right?
Right.
They're looking beyond the traditional kind of store to tap into that gig or that micro merchant to gain access into their kind of network. So yeah, we don't directly compete. But if I was to look at it from a competition perspective, every competitor in our space, so let's say Square, that's a quarter of our company because we sit across all the other rails, right? Alipay, Gcash, PayMaya, that's another quarter of our company because we do card acquiring as well as we do BNPL and the crypto side. So we don't directly compete. We're kind of indirectly kind of associated to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that being said, what other industries or sectors are, in the future growth plans? If so, and how you target your, vendors or merchants?
Yeah, so from a merchant acquisition standpoint, we have a really advanced partner program. Now it's probably where we broke ground first, because we saw, independently acquiring merchants to bring them onto a network was incredibly expensive. The cost to acquire that merchant was really, really high. Their retention, while sometimes good, it can get a little bit kind of stretched at some stages. But we kind of went, well, look, we see ourselves as a technology provider and an enabler. So if you're an existing fintech, if you're an existing financial institution, or you're an acquirer or payment service provider, you've probably already got an existing merchant network. So we really look to bring them in, give them an added line of revenue, give them, best in market product and experience and capability, and then they can push that out to an existing merchant network. So really, and all via a white label, right? Because they work so hard to get their brand up. We really enable them at scale for that as well. So yeah, it's an interesting model, and we really like it because we're great at tech. We build some of the best stuff in the world. and that's what we want to be known for. And other groups have a great merchant relationship. So it's like, well, you guys can keep that. We keep the tech, and everybody stays friends.
Everyone wins. I love it.
Yeah,
So can you tell us a little bit more, about the raise? How much are you raising? What's the momentum thus far? Anything, that can detail that?
Yeah, and look, Daniel blows up my email every regular on the week with introductions and meetings and everything like that. So it's been a great experience so far. We've probably got about 9 investors in the pipeline to handle our $5 million raise, and we're doing it via convertible notes. And certainly, probably James, my COO, is more structured in that world. He comes from a banking background, but yeah, we've got a $5 million raise underway. We've got substantial interest from lots of parties beyond, I suppose, the network here in Australia. And to that end, we're starting to see those JV partnerships also potentially look to have funding explored, which is a great place to be in for us.
Right. Exactly. Amazing.
Yeah. That's always interesting when you have your partners who want to buy into the business. I mean, it just gives you that right story, and for an investor's point of view, when they see that, they say, well, the partners are wanting to come in. They see how valuable it is. It's just a really good story, especially for sure. An investor. So,
and like to that point, Dan, I guess foreign investors like to see where their money's staying, right? They're like, okay, cool. Exactly. I'm a UK based VC. My money is just going to be shuffled back to Australia. I'm going to have no real insight or oversight. I'm not going to see anything about it. So, for our EU operation, like we're going to do a funding round for that, right? So they're going to have massive insight into that business as a whole to kind of go, all right, well, I know where my money's going. It may be staying onshore. Perfect. I've got a lot more oversight and a lot more intelligence and kind of insight about what it's being spent on. And they can see traction in the market for it, right? Which I think is really valuable for them.
Yeah, it is. Certainly Absolutely. Is. So that's about the company. Let's find out about you and about the founder. So what does a day in your life look like?
Look, that's an interesting one. So my fiance's about to have a baby, so we're due in September, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And you know what? I know what my life looks like right now. So I wake up at about 4:30 in the morning. I go for a run, go to the gym. 45, and it's very cliche, right? It really sets the tone for my day.
For sure.
To really get active and kind of wake up and be on point. And again, operating a global company, I wake up to about 45 emails in my inbox. So, I have a quick scan, see what's important. If there's nothing there, jump in the car, get to the gym. Come back, grab a quick breakfast, and then I'm generally in the office by about 7:30. And then it's a whirlwind tour, right? Back-to-backs, Zoom calls, phone calls, the odd flyer to put out, or the odd other interested party, or someone who wants to speak directly to me. It's a pretty big tour and a pretty big day, but I've got a great team around me. And I really think those kind of lines of communication are very strong. I trust them with my company. I trust them to have a handle on their business unit within our company. And it's really good. Generally wrap up the day by about 6:30, 7 o'clock, race home, give the fiance a kiss, have a chat about her day, have a quick bite at dinner, and then it's back on Zoom calls for the evening. So, again, multiple time zones, multiple meetings, take my meetings in the UAE at about 7:30 through to about 9 o'clock. Then 9:30 through to about 11 is the stuff going on in the EU and the UK. And then hit the sack like a sack of potatoes, and then wake up and do it all again. And when I was younger and earlier in this journey, I would work on the weekends, and I quickly realized that my weekends are really for me and for my family, whether that's be spending time with my mum or spending time with Kira. And that's my safe time now, right? So I rest and recharge and enjoy some Netflix or go to the beach or do whatever. Right. So yeah, I certainly have a good balance, I think, in my mind. As we grow and scale even further, I think, aligning myself with team further to handle that and not micromanage is important. But yeah, that's kind of a day in the life and a week of me. Monday to Friday, we have flat stick, and I love every second of it. If I'm not doing something, I feel like I'm stuck in the mud. Yeah.
I'm the same way. There's no such thing as 9 to 5 anymore. It's like it's like 5 to 9. Or just whenever someone emails me, it's like especially with different time zones too. It's like it's Sunday night here and it's like Monday for you guys. I'm like, oh, just another day.
Yeah, exactly. Just whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's finding that balance. I'm the same. Your focus changes, especially when you have kids. So on the weekends, I try to turn off and not check emails. And even though you get a bit of anxiety because the email's still coming through, and you're like, oh, that the number's getting up and up and up. So I had 41 unread emails on Friday afternoon. At 1 a.m. this morning, I couldn't sleep, so I just started to reply, and I had close to 130. So they back up, and you're like, oh, I've got to get through them. I've got to get through them. So, but trying to manage that time, trying to make sure that you take time out to spend time with family and just switch off,
recharge.
Exactly. That's the critical thing.
And I think. Yeah, and I think right, like I think communication now is easier than ever. Like we've got Slack and we've got emails and we've got Zoom and we've got this. It's no longer like scheduled times to do anything. Like I turn my notifications on my Slack off on the weekend. Friday afternoon or Friday night at 7:00. Do not disturb.
Right.
You can wait till Monday.
Yeah,
it's not unless you're missing a limb. I don't want to hear from you.
Exactly. No, I think it's important to set that tone too. Because I feel like if you're always available to everyone all the time, then people are just going to utilize that and then just take advantage of that. You know what I mean? As soon as you set that you have a good balance and this is when you're not available, it's, that's always good. Just setting that structure.
Yeah.
From my experience, at least. All right. So next question. What is the biggest challenge in running a startup? Oh, I'm sure there's many, but what's your biggest challenge thus far?
Yeah, look, my biggest challenge is I've seen it countless times, and so probably have you guys as well. Like growing too fast beyond what is manageable, right? If it was me personally, I'd take on every single deal that comes across my table, and I would do every single integration, and I would try to to scale it beyond something. But at the same time, I'm surrounded by a team of experts in their own desired kind of vertical or space. And they always say one thing, it's like strategic growth is critical to a business like this. It's don't overload everyone too much, because either they'll burn out as a business unit and then the wheel will fall off.
Right.
So we've implemented some really cool kind of, not cool, but some really important ways to navigate that growth. So, our engineering team have a very specific Gantt and a very specific process that we follow for any new integration and any new kind of opportunity. We're looking at strategically scaling even our investment, right? Like we're looking now to be like, okay, when do we start to have these conversations for future rounds of money? What do we need to do to get those in motion? Because we know that they all take time. So yeah, that's kind of how we've kind of structured it. I set personally specific days to handle specific things. So Monday is a very management day. Tuesday is a very product-based day. Wednesday again is a very kind of engineering-based day. So, and then Thursday is really based around our partners, and then Friday is our kind of infrastructure and global kind of day where we kind of catch up with everyone and get a rebalance on the week. That's the way I like to run it, because it really does segregate days, because I'm not going to be booking product meetings on a Monday. Product is Tuesday. If my day is full on Tuesday, then you're going to have to go to next week.
Right. You can mentally prepare that way. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly right. And it works really, really well. And I really, really like it. And a lot of our team is starting to implement that as well. So it's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you had an extra 4 hours in your day, how would you spend those 4 hours?
I would. Yeah, look, that's a really good question.
Isn't it?
Can I add it? Can I add an extra hour to every day? Like, is that, or is it just 4 hours every day? Oh God, what would I do with
4 hours every day. What do you have hobbies? Do you have things that you like to do that you don't get to do because you're so busy?
I love to read. I'm a vivacious reader. And, you know, believe it or not, I like to pick up a book and actually read it. And now I've got addicted to Audible. So I'm just like listening while I'm doing things like driving to work.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
he's frozen there.
yeah, he's frozen. Uh-oh.
Let me take a little bit of personal time for me.
You just froze for about 20 seconds there.
Oh, really?
Okay. Just keep it going. All right, we know you like to read.
Yeah, you like to read.
Yes. Yeah. So reading, right? I'd probably read a little bit more. I'd take a little bit more time for me and you know, probably set a little bit more structure in the day to do it. So yeah, that's what 4 hours would give me for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, what would your 15-year-old self imagine you'd be doing right now?
Did I lose you again?
Oh no. Is he gone? Oh no. Uh-oh. Dan, are you
I'm here. He's
I'm just laughing. He's caught in a stance. We got about 9.5 minutes remaining. Oh goodness.
he's frozen. We may need to cut that there. And is he coming?
Oh no.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. I see him now.
We're back.
He's here. He's back.
I have no idea what just happened. Sorry, guys. I think
Did you hear my question at all?
Drop it.
Oh, it's okay.
No.
Well, going back to my question, we'll just jump right back into it. Thank goodness for editing. What was your 15-year-old self imagine you'd be doing right now?
I wanted to become a lawyer, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I kind of, yeah. I always thought litigators were cool. And I was like, oh yeah, litigation sounds super exciting.
It is super cool.
Now I've got a lot of friends that are lawyers, and I'm like, oh my God, you've got more gray hair than someone who's 60, but they love their job, right? And I shouldn't say that. They play a very important part. But yeah, I was like I killed law at school, like in high school. I loved it. And then, and I probably wasn't the most diligent student in the rest of my subjects. So I was like, okay, let's reassess the whole legal profession.
Right.
But yeah, that was my kind of passion.
Oh no.
I think this makes for the connectivity issues. Exactly what he was talking about before in the payment space. We need to fix that globally.
This is funny. It's not my internet. I think it must be his because he's going in and out. He's the only one. So
All right. Well, I think we'll stop recording there, and we'll put all Ian's details.
I mean, we have a lot of.
Yeah, we'll put all the details up for FinPay and for Ian, and we can loop him back in for these fun questions.
Right, and he's here, so maybe he can have a closing remark. Or something.
I think we're facing connectivity issues, and you know this is one of the things that you're trying to fix in the payment space. So I just said we'll finish it up, and we'll put your details up there and let people know how to get in contact with you if they're interested in FinPay and want to know more. So if you have any closing remarks, anything you want to add, now's the time before
it drops out again.
You're being timed, so go.
Look, closing remarks. I think, and I don't like to be one of those people, but I think the world is mobilizing quicker than what it thinks, right? And I think payments as an industry vertical isn't even 10% done with what it can do to the world and help the world. I like the phrase of impact fintech. I think fintech is often bundled up to being these, mega billion-dollar businesses that are there as profit machines, and certainly not saying we don't operate a profitable business because we are a for-profit company. But, I think enabling people who have the don't have the ability to have a bank account, or don't have the ability to take money, or really can't break beyond the boundary of what they've really known, is I see solutions like FinPay being able to help them to partake in the economy as a whole. So yeah, that's my kind of closing remark. I think that's, one of our core values is philanthropic endeavors, and that's something that we've had since day one. So I think that's a really important part to the fintech ecosystem is giving back to the people that may not have been able to connect in the past. So yeah, hopefully that's any bit of an insight.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thanks for joining us on this episode. It's been great chatting to you and finding out more about FinPay and more about you and how you'd spend those extra hours in the day. And I'll Julia and I will put the details of this on our socials, and we'll put ways on how to get in contact with you. I'm excited to see what's happening. I'm excited to see what happens in the future, and we want to put more and more people in touch with you for your raise, because I think it's going to be a massive opportunity.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Julia. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate the time this morning.
No problem.
Yes, we'll see you in the US.
Yes, looking forward to it. Bring it on.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
perfect.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
See you guys.